Moving on now to Module 6 and the resume, your personal brand's ad. We're going to be talking about the content of the ad and assessing your skills. So let's talk about the dreaded resume. About 10 years ago, my wife and I had our first child, a son. But just before that happened, my wife went into labor. She had an emergency C-section. Now, everything was okay, and everything worked out well, but of course, as a result, we had to stay in the hospital for a few days. The best thing about staying in the hospital was all the advice we got from nurses, doctors, other patients, friends, and family. As new parents, we were very nervous and could use all the advice that we got. Now, the worst part about being in the hospital for those 2 or 3 days was all the advice that we got from nurses and doctors and family and friends and other patients. The trouble with the advice was that it was always different. Everybody had a slightly different opinion about how to change our son, how to wash our son, whether or not we should wake him up for feed times, that sort of thing. It was very confusing, and for nervous first parents, it was very tough. What we decided in the end, though, was that we just needed to do what was right for us, what we felt comfortable with. We weren't going to hurt our son. We weren't going to starve him. Parents have been doing this for centuries. We would get by, and ultimately, the decisions had to be ours for our own reasons. I could put you in a room with 100 different resume experts, and I'll tell you this, you'll get 100 different opinions on how to structure your resume. What it should look like, how many pages it should be, what should be on the first page, all that sort of thing. It can be a very frustrating experience, believe me, I've gone through it. So I'm not going to tell you how to structure your resume today. Really, that should be up to you. This is about you. It's a reflection of who you are. It's something that you should be comfortable with based on your own terms. What we are going to talk about today, though, is content. Now, I've said that your resume is your personal brand's ad. So what I want you to think about is ads that you've seen that really kind of turned you off, that were completely ineffective as far as you were concerned. And what was it about those ads that you found to be so negative? Was it there was too much copy, too much stuff to read, pictures that were unappealing, or maybe the message itself was just convoluted and you really had no idea what it was they were saying? I found that the best ads, the most effective, impactful ads, are the ones that are the most simple. A simple message and picture can truly say 1,000 words. And here's an example of just that. A very, very simple message, simply projected and communicated, but is very, very powerful. And that can be your resume. It doesn't have to be a complicated, messy, copy-heavy, 2-page document. It can be clean and neat and simple, and yet still convey a very powerful message. We had a favorite saying in the movie business that content is king, and the same can be said for your resume. Remember what I said about the resume being an ad for your personal brand. It's got to leap off the page. It's got to be something that really stands out to the hiring manager or recruitment manager. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. They've got a job posting, they've been handed a stack of resumes, they don't have a lot of time, they've got to get through it, and they've got to pick 2 or 3 candidates to interview. It's got to be that first page that really stands out and grabs them. I don't care if your resume is 2 pages, 3, or 4. It's that first page that really counts. So let's focus in on what the content should be that'll help you get your resume pulled out from the rest. The first, of course, is a no-brainer. It's your contact information, your name, your phone number, and your email. You don't need your address, not just yet, until they hire you. Then they're going to want it. But for now, you don't really need it. The next thing I like to see is an objective. A statement that is proposed in 1 or 2 sentences, clearly and concisely, that talks about what you're looking for within the next 1 to 3 years. Now, I like an objective statement for 2 reasons. First, because companies want to know that you want to work for them. They don't want to know that you've sent out resumes to 100 different places. They want to think that they're the best and that they're the only place that you want to work. So even if you just talk about the industry that they're in, that's what you're interested in achieving, that's okay. You don't have to list them as your objective, but you certainly have to give them an indication. The second reason is the companies today use what's known as applicant tracking systems. It's like a Google search that allows their recruitment managers to funnel out applicants that don't have skills or requisite information that is consistent with what they're looking for in the job description. So that's another reason, and an objective gives you an opportunity to list those things. Next, what I like to see is your core skills, the things that you consider the best about you. And these can be listed as bullet points if you like, but ultimately you want to list skills that really pay attention to the job description. I'm talking of things like time management, conflict resolution, creative problem solving, that sort of thing. List your core skills because, again, those are the things that will stand out in the applicant tracking system, but also pay attention to that job description because you can really tailor-make your resume to fit that job description. Next, we want to talk about your broader experience. What is it that you've done? What have you accomplished? And always make sure that you're listing metrics. Don't just list your job description. Talk about what you accomplished and what that accomplishment actually meant in terms of metrics. Did sales go up? Did employee retention go down? What happened? What actually resulted from your actions? That's really important. Now, of course, the rest of your resume should talk about your education, your volunteer experience, if you've got any sort of entrepreneurial experience. All that sort of stuff is really great, really meaty, very valuable in your resume. But that first page should just be about what you want and what you bring to the table. And make sure, again, you're aligning with the job description. The last thing I will say is don't create a be-all, catch-all resume. Tailor-make your resume to the job that you're applying to. Again, I'll say it. Employers don't want to know that you're advertising yourself to hundreds of different locations. They want to feel like they're the only place that you want to work. And as I've said before, the best thing about the job description is that it tells you exactly what it is that they're looking for. And so you can use those keywords. You can really focus in on your experience that is most important to that employer. So of course, you can Google employment skills, but here's a slide to show you some of the skills that you might want to consider including in your resume. Things like time management, project management, conflict resolution, creative solutions, coaching and mentoring, problem solving, communication, team player, change management is a really big one. If any of those things you feel that you can grab examples for, make sure you document 2 to 3 for each. These you can use in your resume, but you should also have them handy for your interview, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Some years ago, my wife was going through a job transition, and she started to put down her experience on her resume. And one of the things that she was really concerned with, that she had spent almost 9 or 10 years at this past company, and she felt like no one was going to be able to hire her because she'd only had this one experience. But the more we dove into those 10 years, the more we realized what a robust resume and what a great experience that she actually did have. And the reason was that we looked beyond the job description. We didn't just say that this was her job and this is what she did. We looked at the skills that she used and the skills that she acquired through that experience. And once we'd gone through that process, as I said, what we realized was, and what more importantly she realized was, that she had a pretty amazing resume and was a very attractive candidate for a lot of different companies. So what I've done here is said, look beyond the job description. Don't just say that you were a server in a restaurant, because I've been a patron in a restaurant. I know what servers do. What I want to see is what are the skills that you use and or acquire being a server in a restaurant. Things like priority setting, customer service, conflict resolution, team orientation. Those are hard skills that employers look for that you used being a server in a restaurant. What about a camp counselor? Organization skills, coaching and mentoring, leadership. Again, very important, things that are very attractive to companies and things that you may not have even realized you were doing while you were doing that job. A sales clerk at the Gap or a shoe store, product knowledge, customer relations, inventory control, sales strategy. Again, very meaty skills that you can use in your interview and in your resume. Even those of you who have traveled, that requires skill. Project planning, budgeting, scheduling, all those things that, again, you probably didn't even realize that you did, or skills that you used or acquired that are so important to companies today. So look beyond the job description. Don't just tell us what you did. Talk about the skills that you used and or acquired. So I found this research a little while ago from a company called Millennium Branding, and I thought it was really important for this webinar. The 5 core skills that companies look for when they hire. communication skills, positive attitude, adaptable to change, teamwork skills, and goal orientation. Then you look at the skills that companies find hardest to acquire in their candidates. And they're exactly the same, except for number 5, which is strategic thinking and analytics. So you look at those top 4 things and ask yourself, can you demonstrate, can you communicate that you have those skills? And I'm betting that you do. Whether through your life as a student or some of your work experience, you've developed communication skills, you have a positive attitude, you're adaptable to change, and you have teamwork skills. Those are the 4 top things that companies look for, but they think that they're the hardest to acquire. And I'm sure that you have them. Think about it and find those examples.